The body. We all originate from one source, from one essence, yet each of us possesses his own individuality. The difference between one creature and another is not merely a quantitative difference in atoms. Rather, there is a greater and more complex difference in the relationships between those atoms and in how they interconnect. We now know from the synthesis of genetic codes in the primordial cell that all human embryos are synthesized from more than 20 chemical letters of DNA and protein, just as all books and compositions are formed from the letters of the alphabet. Thus, each book has its own spirit, personality, and unique quality as an independent, distinct creature, even though all books are composed of the very same letters. This uniqueness reaches such a degree that each individual is distinguished by a specific, different fingerprint. No two fingerprints are alike, even if they are twins. From the beginning of creation until now, countless millions upon millions of individuals have been cast forth. We now know that each body has its own unique chemical code, making it difficult and sometimes impossible to patch your body with a piece from another body. The body soon rejects the foreign patch as if it were a microbe, a foreign entity, or an invasion. This is the major problem in reconstructive surgeries and organ transplants. The longest lifespan of a transplanted heart was 20 months under a constant barrage of anesthetic injections and anti-allergy pills to prevent the body from rejecting the foreign organ. This means that individuality and uniqueness are a fundamental reality attested to by science, a truth I did not recognize in the early stages of my intellectual development. I believed that the essential and enduring entity was society, not the individual. It was humanity, not a specific person. Life in general, not the living beings. Existence, not the existence. The whole, not the units. This is an effect of the Indian philosophy of unity of existence, which states that existence is God and He is the permanent, while all other existence are Maya, and Maya is the fleeting illusion. Every individual's destiny is towards a true annihilation with no resurrection thereafter. I believed that an individual's immortality lay only in what they left for their children in terms of guidance, upbringing, sciences, and knowledge, while their own self ends in dust with no return. Our share of immortality is what we add to the vessel of the whole, but our persons and our individualities are destined for non-existence. As for personality, I initially understood it as nothing more than circumstantial reactions to temporary situations. Consequently, when these circumstances end and times change, nothing of this personality remains, and it disintegrates with old age due to the disintegration of the connective fibers in the brain. When the nerves corrupt and perish with death, the specific self inherent to them perishes. With this shallow, materialist understanding, I perceived man in the beginning. I would tell myself that personality is not one thing, but rather a stream of different personalities flowing incessantly. My personality at age 10 is different from that at 20, and different again at 30. In every moment, something is added to myself and something is subtracted from it. So which one of these souls will be resurrected and held accountable? Those afflicted with split personality, which one will go to the afterlife? Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde? I forgot through this verbal play the primary simple truth that when we reprint a book in a second edition, we do not print a page or a chapter, but we print it all in its origins, so that it is issued in its entirety, in its origins. Thus each book is revealed in its entirety, in its origins. Thus the resurrection of the soul is as a whole, with all its chapters and origins, just as the seed sprouts from the darkness of the earth, containing all the potential for branches, leaves, and fruits. But the materialist view, which naturally tends towards analysis, dissection, and fragmentation, was predominant all the time. Hence, the holistic picture of things was always absent from me. I used to imagine that I could understand the spirit if I dissected the body, as there is no difference between the two. The spirit is the body, the mind is the brain, and personality, is reactions and a set of reflexive actions. And emotion, in the final analysis, is physical hunger. We now pause for a long moment to ask, is it true that the soul is merely the drives of hunger and sex, and the set of sensations through which the body perceives what it needs? If we say this, then we are facing a frail materialist interpretation. This is not the truth of the soul, nor the truth of man. Return to pages from the book The Riddle of Death and the Riddle of Life, where I discuss the topic in detail. Man sacrifices his morsel, his home, and his warm bed for the sake of abstract goals, ideals, and ends like justice, truth, goodness, and freedom. Where are the drives of hunger and sex here? The warrior in the field who sacrifices himself on his cannon for the sake of a tomorrow that has not yet come, where is he in the materialist explanation? We are facing conclusive proof that the soul and the self are a transcendent reality, lofty above the body, and not merely the sensory needs of the body reflected in an internal mirror. That immense will which tramples the body and sacrifices it by its nature is a transcendent, lofty reality, commanding and dominating the body, not a follower or a tail of it. If I am the body, how do I control the body and subdue it? If I am the hunger, how do I control the hunger? The mere internal domination over all the elements of the body and the details of instincts is the revealing testimony to that transcendent, distinct element that constitutes the human self. Through the soul one controls the body, through the mind one controls the soul, and through insight one sets the limits for the mind. This hierarchy between one existence and another that rises above it and governs it is the realistic proof that leads us to the spirit as a lofty transcendent reality over the body, ruling over it, and not a tail or a follower that dies with its death. He who says that man is merely a set of material physiological functions and nothing more must explain to us, where does that man go in the moment of sleep? All physiological functions are ongoing and continuous during sleep, and all reflexive and involuntary actions occur regularly. The heart beats, breath respires, glands secrete, viscera contract, reproductive organs have needs, the arm contracts from a pinprick, and yet we are before a sleeping man resembling a tree, merely a tree, or a primitive life no different from vegetative life. Where is the man? Sleep and then wakefulness is the miniature model of death and then resurrection. It reveals to us again that transcendent element whose presence suddenly, without preamble, creates a Hitler or a Nehru, so that being stretched out like a dormant bull awakens to kill, invade, crush, and annihilate. And the immense difference is too great to be explained by a material change that occurs in moments. The materialists say that the soul is an objective reality and therefore is matter. And we ask, how can the soul be an object? An object in relation to whom? An object in relation to others? How? When others do not see it nor perceive its existence except by inference from behavioral phenomena. And these phenomena are mostly deceptive. For each of us acts in front of people, even acts in front of himself, and his apparent behavior seldom indicates his true self. Or is it an object in relation to its owner? If any of us takes his own self as an object, it cools down and turns under the comb of analysis into a corpse, and it hides from him and escapes his grasp. For it cannot be an object, nor can it be placed under a microscope like a leaf from a tree, because its essence lies primarily in its subjectivity. Its truth is that it is the other side of the picture. It is the subject in contrast to the body, which is the object. Both poles, subject and object, are the two faces of reality. If we define matter as everything that is objective, then we must acknowledge that there is something else in existence other than matter, which is the other face of reality, which is the subject. The process of perception leads us to a sure affirmation that there are two things in every moment, the perceived thing and the perceiving soul outside it. We would not be able to perceive the passage of time were it not for the fact that the perceiving part within us stands on a separate threshold outside this continuous temporal passage. If our perception jumped with the second hand every moment, we would never be able to perceive these seconds at all, nor would we perceive their passage as the seconds slip by, without noticing anything. It is a known law that motion cannot be observed except from outside it. You cannot perceive motion while moving with it in the same orbit. Rather, you must have an external threshold to stand upon to observe it. Hence, there comes a moment when you are in a moving elevator and cannot tell if it is stationary or moving, because you have become one piece with it in its motion. You cannot perceive this motion except if you look from the elevator door to the fixed pavement outside. Similarly, you cannot observe the sun from upon it, nor can you observe it from the moon or the earth, just as you cannot observe the earth while inhabiting it, but you can observe it from the moon. So it is always. You cannot encompass a state unless you exit it and observe it as an object. And since you perceive the passage of time, your perceiving self must be outside time. This is a staggering result that proves to us the spirit or the perceiving self as an independent existence, transcendent over time, surpassing it and external to it. So here we are before a human reality, part of which is immersed in time, passes away with time, grows with it, ages with it, and grows old with it, and that is the body. And another part of it is outside this time, observing it from a threshold of stillness, perceiving it without being entangled in it, and therefore it does not grow, age, grow old, or pass away. Even if the body falls to dust, it will remain in its state, living its own non-temporal life. We find no name for this part except the name given by the religions, the spirit. Each of us can sense this spiritual existence within himself and perceive that it is an existence different in quality from the external, pulsating, changing existence that flows around us in a waterfall of transformations. Each of us can feel inside himself a state of presence, continuity, substantiation, personhood, and a present constant being, always different from the changing, fluctuating, pulsating material existence outside with time. This internal state that we perceive in moments of internal alertness, which I have called the state of presence, is the key that leads us to the spiritual existence within us, and puts our hand on this enigma called the spirit, the absolute, or the abstract. When we perceive beauty and distinguish it from ugliness, perceive truth and distinguish it from falsehood, perceive justice and distinguish it from injustice, each time we are measuring with a standard, with a ruler separate from the event we are measuring. So we are measuring from the very same threshold, the threshold of the spirit. Spiritual existence is also represented within us by conscience, and is also indicated by the sensation of beauty. It is indicated by the subtle sense that distinguishes truth from falsehood, and the spurious from the correct. It is indicated by internal freedom. The spirit is the realm of secrecy, untrammeled freedom, choice, and discrimination. When we live our lives, we do not take death into account. We act in every moment without reckoning with death, and we look at death as if it were the absurd. In reality, we think and act with this profound I, which is the spirit, which does not know death by its nature. For the spirit, which lives outside the realm of time, death is for it no more than a change of garment, no more than a transition. As for death as annihilation and non-existence, it is something it does not know. It was, eternally and always, in a state of presence and personhood. It was always here. It is the continuous presence upon which the accident of vanishing has not and will not occur. All that will happen to it through death is that it will cast off the earthly bodily garment, and as the Sufis say, it will don the barzakh garment, then cast off the barzakh garment to don the malakut garment, then cast off the malakut garment to don the jabarut garment, toiling from one degree to another, ascending toward his Creator. Every spirit rises according to its purity, transparency, and ability to soar, while dense spirits descend into palpable darknesses, and eternity passes upon them as they try to escape. I will leave the Sufis to their visions so we do not get lost with them in bewilderment. My aim in this study is not to cross the barrier of death to know what lies beyond it, for that is a desire for what is unattainable and a wish for the impossible. It suffices me for the listener or the reader to contemplate himself and discover his profound governing self, transcendent over his earthly body, that which I have called the spirit, and for which I have indicated the most eloquent proof, the feeling of presence that each of us feels within himself, that continuous presence upon which the accident of vanishing does not and will not occur. It is as if it is the eye perpetually open within us, that internal alertness, that invisible light in our souls by which we see the path of truth and distinguish ugliness from beauty and good from evil. That threshold from which we observe the movement of time and perceive its passage, and see the passage of things and perceive their motion. That point in the circle, the center around which our worldly temporal events revolve, while it is fixed in its place, not moving, not passing away. It has the existence of the Spirit. Our absolute reality, which is, but that is another enigma. Is the Spirit eternal, or does it have another time with a different measure, where a day is like 1,000 years? What is the relationship between the Spirit and the body? What is the relationship between the mind and the brain? What is the relationship between memory, acquisition, and mastery of sciences? That is another topic with a lengthy explanation.